Welcome to the Scary Basement Jumpscare. Each month, me and my friend Roxy find ourselves suddenly and jarringly back in the horrifying scary basement, and we are never ready for it. My name is Mikey McCollor, and I was in the middle of making French press coffee, dusting off my bookshelf, and replying stop to text messages from Bed, Bath, and Beyond.
And I'm Roxy Polk, and I was just Googling around to see if Michael Myers was based on a real person.
I actually know a lot about that.
Do you?
Yeah. Roxy, since we're here...
Is that what you made your dissertation on, Mikey?
Okay, so I have been to college many times. I've written many dissertations, and in fact, one of them was on the truth of Michael Myers. So yeah, let's talk about him. Let's get to the bottom of, we've been watching all these Halloween movies this month. Michael Myers is, of course, here in the scary basement with us. Say hello, Michael. Nothing from him.
I mean, he's staring. That's something, right? That's the thing he does as well to communicate.
Me and Michael Myers have, I was going to say different love languages, but it might just be different languages. I don't understand them. But I just thought it would be good to figure out a little bit, get to the bottom of, what are some real life bases that these stories come from.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. I'm ready to be educated. I want to learn. So, I was just Googling it, so obviously my search history will show.
Your interest is piqued.
Sure is.
The very first thing we should talk about took place in 1950, the killing of Janet Christman.
Okay.
This
is
was
like a real life true crime.
This is a true crime story. This is some My Favorite Murder ass real murder shit.
Wait, you also listen to My Favorite Murder, Mikey?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
What? Okay, me too. I had no idea, but of course that makes sense that both of us would listen to that.
Yeah, it sounds right.
I was literally listening to an episode while I was getting ready today, 10 minutes ago.
This is great. And now you're going to listen to another episode, except...
Yeah, I can't wait.
From me and very short.
I get to hear it before anybody else, though, so that's exciting.
So we've got the 1950 killing of Janet Christman. She's 13 years old. Oh. She is babysitting. It's a sad one. It's not good.
That's unfortunate. I mean, it's never good when anybody dies. Man, 13-year-old kid. Okay.
She's babysitting. The parents come home, find the babysitter downstairs, blood everywhere. She put up a fight, but she was raped and killed by God only knows.
Oh, dear God.
The baby is not killed. The baby is upstairs asleep, baby totally fine.
Okay.
So
at least it was asleep. Maybe the person didn't know that the baby was upstairs?
That's
the killer?
One theory. The other theory is that maybe the killer, like Michael Myers, saw the baby and walked right past it. That's not a theory. That's not something investigators were thinking about.
I'm a brutal monster, but not that much of a monster.
The Missouri newspaper, the Hutchinson News-Herald, also reported that, quote, during the last 6 months, another babysitter was raped, and a college student in the same neighborhood was the victim of an attempted rape. So, there's somebody going around doing this. This is a serial rapist, essentially, and then this last victim, it sounds like
he escalated.
He escalated. What's scary to me is that it's the second babysitter. So it's like, this guy was watching young women and waiting for them to be in this, deeply vulnerable position. Babysitting itself is frightening, right? You're in a stranger's house. It's not a territory you're familiar with, but you're also in charge. You're being asked to make decisions. So
you're like a teenager being held responsible for another person's child.
Exactly. And you shouldn't be. You're not responsible yourself. So it's and there's this fear that even if you get murdered, which would be bad enough on its own, if you get murdered in this situation, you are also letting this child that you're in charge of die too. So it's you are both victim and loser isn't the right word. You are both
you feel responsible.
And it's your fault. Right.
Yes. Yeah. You would blame yourself. And also, I think you brought this up too. It's not your house, so you're not familiar with it. So that seems like a very specific tactic, someone who can case the house and study it, whereas the babysitter might be their first time there. They have no idea where the entrances and exits are the same way.
They don't know where
there or studied it would be.
They don't know where the knives are.
Yes, that's true.
They don't know where the pizza cutters are. They don't know where the guns are or the dynamite is. These things are all hidden, and if you have to find them quick, you can get them at your own house, no problem.
Yeah. I've always got my dynamite right by my bedside table, so I can get it whenever there's an intruder.
That's smart of you.
You know.
So that killing very much inspires this urban legend that kind of starts springing up in the 60s, and I'm sure you've heard it before. The urban legend of the babysitter and the man upstairs. Are you familiar with this?
Oh, so is it like the phone call coming from inside the house one, or?
The phone call was coming from inside the house, absolutely.
Okay.
Famously, my Twitter name every Halloween, I changed my name from Michael McCollor to Michael McCall was coming from inside the house, or...
I was not aware that was every year. I did see that this year.
It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite things I ever thought of. This story is also frightening to me. It's one of those, like, it's like the kind of story where, like, the two kids go make out and then the escaped hook hand guy escapes and then they go home and find the hook dangling. It's that level of urban myth, and that, like, there are all these different iterations. Sure seems to be inspired by this story of Janet Christman, the babysitter who was killed. But the idea is there's a young woman babysitting these kids. She puts them in bed. She starts getting calls from a total creeps show, right? In some iterations, this guy is giggling. In some iterations, he's saying, like, oh, watch out, look where you're going. Don't get on the train. Like, just saying general creepy things to her. And she's hanging up and she's calling the police. And they're like, yeah, we can put a trace on the call. It'll just take some time. For now, just stay in the house, stay safe. And
it's like, what, the 60s, 70s, so.
Exactly. When phone call tracing had just been invented. And so these calls keep coming in and they're getting creepy and there's giggling. And then finally, the police call with the call tracing and they say, get out of the house. We traced it. The call is coming from inside the house. And so that's horrifying in general. Some iterations of the story, she goes upstairs, the kids have been murdered. Some iterations, while she's on the phone with the police, she drops the phone and then they're like, ma'am, are you still there? And then they hear the same giggling or same creepy, don't get on the train kind of things that the babysitter was hearing. Some iterations, the police come and arrest this killer who, like, looks at the babysitter as he's getting hauled away and is just like, see you soon, which is scary. And then the one I like the best is they, I mean, not the best, this is upsetting, but it's the best upsetting version of this story, is that the kids are all killed, right? Babysitter survives.
All right.
And then 20 years later, the babysitter has a family of her own and she goes out to eat and now she has a mobile phone and she is getting calls and she starts getting these same calls from the same, like, giggling guy who also says, don't eat the pasta. And then she comes home and it's the same thing has happened to her and her kids. And then she's just like, God, is this ever going to stop?
I'm sorry, I can't get over your serial killer voice on the phone, Mikey. It's very... He called the restaurant to warn her not to eat the pasta.
Yeah.
People got food poisoning there last week.
I was trying to think of what the, like, most benign threats I could think of were, and there weren't many.
That is very reminiscent of Michael Myers, though, and the, repeating the same thing, coming back years later. I mean, he would just be breathing into the phone, I guess, which does happen in the first movie, actually. She gets a call. But that's her friend playing a prank on her, though, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't know if... Does Michael ever actually call?
No, she gets the 911 operator's treatment in that she calls her friend and she's talking to her for a second, and then Michael, like, picks up the phone and he's, like, breathing. She's like, what?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because he kills her while she's on the phone.
He strangles her with the phone cord, right?
Yes.
What a guy.
Yep, he does. When he's wearing that sheet.
The thing that ties both of these stories together and makes their influence on Halloween clear, to me at least, is this idea of stalking. That it's not just crimes that are happening suddenly or by somebody you know. Like, these are no crimes of passion. These are not premeditated. I guess not premeditated in the way that, like, a bank robbery is, right? These are premeditated in just, like, an abstract dart thrown at a board kind of way. Like, somebody just decided these were the girls they were going to find, and then they just are fixated on them for a long time. And then this Halloween story that, like, every sequel we've watched has been about how Michael Myers is fixated on Laurie Strode and for whatever reason, rather. And he is pursuing to no ends. Like, what's scary about the call was coming from inside the house story is that, like, it was already over before it began. In the same way that Halloween, I think the original film starts with Laurie learning about fate and its oncoming march. Like, if the caller was inside the house, like, she never had a chance to escape. It just feels so defeating, even from the beginning.
Yeah. Or at the very least, they're getting you when you're vulnerable. So if you don't like act quick, and save the kids immediately, you're not really going to have much time to save yourself.
It's like Metroid Dread. Are you playing Metroid Dread, Roxy?
I am not, but I have a feeling you are, Mikey.
There are horrifying robots that if you touch them, they kill you instantly, but you get a tiny split second to press your, reversal button to, melee them away. But it's very hard, and they kind of tell you, don't rely on this. If you get caught by the guys, it's already over. You have a tiny chance to run away, but not enough.
Okay, so it's not really a solid counter move.
No, it's very hard. Now let's get into some of the real inspirations behind Halloween. John Carpenter.
Things that... Oh, okay, so Carpenter said specifically. So this is kind of this guy was the vibe, I guess, kind of, this first one. And then this one is going to be specifics.
Yes, this is what the director of the original Halloween, John Carpenter, specifically said inspired it.
Okay, cool.
There is a 2003 documentary about the making of Halloween. I should have written down what it's called, but I didn't. And who cares? I got this via hiddenremote.com.
Okay. I'm sure if you type into Google, a Halloween documentary, John Carpenter, you'll probably find it.
Here's the thing. I pulled up the YouTube video, and it's an hour and a half, and I was like,
oh,
I got shit to do.
Damn. Okay, I will go look for it later because it sounds interesting.
I already watched, or rather read the most interesting part of it, where John Carpenter describes taking a visit to a mental institution while he himself was in college. So he just I don't know, whatever his major was. They just thought it would be fun to go check out a mental institution, see what's going on. And he goes to this institution and sees a child who he describes as being somewhere between 12 and 13, who literally had this look. He described it as a schizophrenic stare. It's an real evil stare, and it was unsettling to me. It was the creepiest thing I'd ever seen, just because it's a stranger. And he goes on to say that, he was completely insane. So John Carpenter goes to a mental institution, sees a child, and is just oh yeah, that's Michael Myers. This is the character. He has this image in his head, and then later on is asked to make a movie about a stalker who is going after babysitters, and he's like, I got experience with that. I know what kid would do that.
Wait, he wasn't going there specifically to research how he was going to write Halloween. This was before he got.
This was before, yeah.
Prompted? Wow. Okay, I guess maybe he was planning a horror movie before or something. I don't know.
Listen,
did he ever say why he was there?
Does not say. He visits it while he was in college. I was trying to think about, was he studying psychology? I actually don't know what he studied.
Oh, yeah, okay,
college.
That would make a lot of sense. Yeah, if it was specifically for a school thing.
It could have been an art school thing where you go and, try to draw the schizophrenics. And, it's a good test of figure drawing because they're moving and frantic and you have to capture them. That would be... a good way to create vibrancy in your illustrations. The way that John Carpenter described meeting this child, Michael Myers, in this documentary is almost copied and pasted into Loomis's dialogue, right? When he initially describes Michael Myers, this blank, pale, emotionless face, the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized what was living behind the boy's eyes was pure and simply evil. That's a poet's rewriting of John Carpenter's, he was 12 or 13, he had this schizophrenic stare, is what it was. He's just, he's talking like a person, and then Loomis comes in with, a writer's flair. He comes in and kind of describes what would actually
Loomis
happen.
has a flair for the dramatic, we all know it.
Boy, does he. Yeah.
He probably talks poetically like that about what he had for breakfast,
I cracked pepper on it. It was black like the devil.
Wait, sir, are you telling us that you had a boiled egg or something? Put some pepper on it.
A boiled egg cooked in the bubbling pit of hell that is my pot.
You're okay, Loomis, gotcha. Okay. I just had some toast, so I'm good to go for the rest of today for my energy. Great.
So these are some of the tangible, fact-based inspiration, and by fact-based, I mean one of them is an urban legend, so not really. But these are some of the tangible inspirations from Halloween that were kind of in the cultural ether that must have inspired John Carpenter as he's making this film. Now, here's an urban legend that supposedly inspired Michael Myers himself, but may or may not be real. As of yet, unclear.
Wait. Okay.
Roxy,
right.
Do you know about Stanley Steirs?
I know that he might not be a real person, but he might have also been a real person. Who knows? I think that's vaguely what I know about him.
My creepypasta sense is askew enough that, like, I don't, like, you know when you're reading a creepypasta and you're like, oh, obviously this isn't real, but it's very fun and delightful and it's written as though it's a real story?
Yeah.
The Stanley Steirs story has a lot of elements like that, and a bunch of publications have looked into him and have found no actual evidence. Esquire did an article about the beginning of Halloween and described the Stanley Steirs story as I'm about to, but then went on to say zero evidence that he ever existed.
Okay. Gotcha.
So nobody knows for sure exactly what's going on. Here's the Stanley Steirs story. This boy, born in 1912 to another family, is switched at birth by just a mischievous nurse. Like, she does this intentionally, just like for a lark. Okay,
that sounds very creepypasta already. Like, who the fuck would do that? Okay.
It's also like, it could be to me, that's the kind of thing where, like, these mistakes happen. And, like, in the retellings, it gets, like, a more sinister
okay. So
origin.
it's like, it's on purpose. Yeah,
I
could understand if something like that happened on accident or something, especially, like,
it happened to me.
What, 1912? Oh, okay. Yeah, you missed out that big part of your origin story, Mikey. What?
I was switched 2 to 3 times. What the nurses at my birth hospital did was put 3 babies under laundry baskets, right? So you can't see. And then they switched them around like a shell game. And then they had the 3 parents come in and each pick a hamper that contained a baby. So I might have gotten to my birth parents, but nobody will literally ever know.
Was it to test how well the parents knew their infants?
No, it was to test how good the parents were at the shell game.
Oh, okay.
There's a guy outside the hospital, he kept doing the shell game, and the nurse is always lost. So they're like, we'll find somebody who's really good at this, and then we'll finally take this guy for what he was worth. And this guy outside playing the shell game, Stanley Steirs.
Oh, okay, now it all makes sense. That's how they got his name.
That's not true.
Got it.
Okay, so this nurse has switched.
I thought it was completely true and real, Mikey. How could you, like, destroy my reality?
Don't worry about it.
Of it like that.
Ride the reality wave. Whatever's true, you'll figure it out eventually, if it matters. In 1912, nurse switches 2 babies. One family gets the Steirs biological baby, and then the Steirs family gets this other baby. The other family, Family X, who has the Steirs biological son, they are killed along with the baby in a car accident at some point within the first 12 years of these babies' lives, right?
Okay.
So the Steirs, with this baby Stanley, find out that it's not their biological son. The evidence comes to light. The nurse is, like, arrested or charged or at least fired. Like, they figure out that the nurse was doing this or did this on accident. And the Steirs know. So therefore, they have this son who is not theirs. And they're mean to him. They're like, they start the general resentment. They drink a lot and they taunt this boy. They're just kind of the general abuse of, like, a family that has a son that they know isn't theirs or that they no longer want.
Even though they, like, raised him for 12 years and their real son is dead anyway. So, like, what are they going to do about it?
This is back in the time, Roxy. Keep in mind, this is about 1920, 25, right?
Okay.
This was before feelings were even capable of being dealt with, right? Like, some parents have these feelings for their biological children, but they work through them and they figure them out and they have, like, there's, like, a greater lens from society upon you, like, saying, like, don't be mean to your kids. But, like, in the 1920s, these are, like, farm people. Like, they're removed from society. They're allowed to do whatever they want. So they're just like, yeah, I feel this way. I'm going to act this way.
So were they horrible to him even before they knew? And then it was just worse? Or it was the catalyst was finding out that he was not their real son?
Every description of this story says that the catalyst is what causes them to go overboard in their, like, taunting and abuse of him.
Okay.
Another catalyst, though, is that the Steirs soon have a daughter that they watch like a hawk, right? This is Susie Steirs. And they make sure they know she is the biological daughter, right?
Man, they really like to have the names right. We got Susie and Stanley Steirs, SS.
Oh, yeah, they're Marvel characters.
Yeah, I guess so.
I forgot to mention that the Stanley Steirs story comes from What If, number 1682. So they have this daughter, Susie, and she picks up on this. She's like, oh, my parents taunt my shitty brother, I'll taunt my shitty brother too.
Oh, okay. So
she's also mean to him. And
not great.
She gets to do whatever she wants, Stanley constantly being punished. Tale as old as time.
I mean, he is the oldest kid, too. It can happen from time to time. They're always going to get the worst of it.
So at 11, Stanley has to watch his sister go trick-or-treating on Halloween night while he himself is not allowed to go. And this is what makes him finally snap. He gets a big old knife, and the second he gets home, or she gets home, rather, from trick-or-treating, Stanley kills her, kills the parents while they sleep.
Oh, okay.
And then goes and kills the family dog.
But the dog didn't have anything to do with this. Come on.
This is when Stanley Steirs goes from anti-hero to villain. Before that, we're like, I get it.
The little girl, they let her go out trick-or-treating, but like, so she had to have been, okay, so Stanley was 12 or so when like she was born, right?
No, he is 12 when this murder happens.
He's 12 when the murder happens.
I made this mistake. I said it was about 12 when they found out about him. And what I was thinking of the time when the murder happens. That's the only time the age is ever specifically given.
But so the parents didn't like wait up for their tiny child to come back from trick-or-treating alone. They're just like, fuck it, we'll just go to sleep.
Could be.
It's just another thing that's like creepypasta, yeah. Like,
well, she also could have gone with friends' parents. You know how there's always one designated parent? It's like when in the NFL, when like NFC teams have to play AFC teams, it's like every 4 years, the NFC North has to play the AFC South, right? Every 4 years, it's your job to take all the neighborhood kids out trick-or-treating. And then you get 3 years off.
Okay.
Because there are 4 families in this neighborhood.
There you go.
I've decided. So Stanley, this Halloween night, family's all dead. He finally, for the first time ever, gets to go trick-or-treating. God bless him. He goes out, and here he kills all of his bullies, everyone who ever made fun of him. He's out on a massacre, right? He is just a kid who is ready to go. He's got all this murder in his heart.
Is this just like the Jeff the Killer story?
I don't know who Jeff the Killer is.
Oh, no. Okay, maybe we should do a Jumpscare episode about Jeff the Killer.
Okay, I'm down.
He
sounds chill. He sounds like your high school buddy who like is the only dude who likes the Minnesota Vikings as much as you. First guy who helped you, like you had your first beer with, and it's like, yeah, it's old Jeff.
It's like a notorious creepypasta that was probably written by a 12-year-old or something based on the quality of it.
So, okay, this is where like plausibility of the Stanley Steirs story goes out the window. Like, if there was a child who was abused and killed his family, fair enough. This is where it's like, okay, he's going out there and going on a murder spree, killing his family. I don't know about that. And
all the bullies and everything, and no one's stopping him or seeing it.
Well, that's the thing. Like, if you are in this like small suburban community, especially in these like in the 20s, like nobody's equipped to deal with this. He just like goes out and starts doing it. They're caught. The authorities are caught flat-footed, Stanley Steirs wise.
Gotcha.
At this point, the feds swoop in, pick him up, capture this kid, and they take him to a facility and start testing on him to see like doing psychological tests to see what could make a child do this.
Okay.
And then in around 1936, when Stanley has of course grown to the size of 6'4", 260 pounds.
Really? Okay.
Yes. The question is, did these like chemical treatments give him super strength? Which, again, obviously this is where plausibility of the story goes out the window. What a great reason that could be for Michael Myers. Why did we never get the evil explanation that he's getting shot all these times because while he spent all that time in the facility, some fucked up scientist was doing fucked up things to him that made his muscles like steel.
Bulletproof. I mean, yeah, like what does Loomis not want to tell us about the other, 7 years or something where he was trying to make sure he didn't escape?
Right.
Were those all the years they were experimenting on him and giving him metallic abs?
So the end of this story is that now a 6'4", 260-pound Stanley Steirs snaps the necks of the orderlies who are working with him, leaves the facility. He is there shot several times, but he continues moving and escapes, and is still lurking to this day. You can see how this story is just Halloween.
Yeah, sounds like it. Only it's if we had no idea what happened to him after he got out of that facility.
I do want to shout out thescarechamber.com. That's where I got most of my information from it. We'll put these links in the show notes to these two articles I was reading up on. Cool. But as I'm reading these stories and learning about some of the origins of Halloween, I was like, why is it so unsettling? Why is this an idea that has captured our imaginations throughout an entire 45 film run of Halloween, right? Like, what is so scary about this? Mm-hmm. And it made me think of a Norm Macdonald joke.
Okay.
Norm Macdonald, I think he just passed away. I think he was the funniest human being who ever lived.
Wait, Norm died?
Oh, yeah. Did you miss this?
Yeah, what?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know Norm was dead.
Yeah, he had cancer for 10 years. It was very sad.
Oh my God, okay.
There's a joke he told on his YouTube live show that he had for a couple of years.
He had a YouTube show? Okay, yeah. I guess I was just not following his career.
It was very early internet. It was 2010 or something.
Damn.
And he would do a topical segment. And one of the segments, he said, today is the anniversary of the death of Albert Fish. Do you know Albert Fish? He asked his guest. And the guest was like, no. And he's like, Albert Fish, one of the most notorious serial killers of all time. He was known as the Gray Man because when police asked one of the women who escaped him to describe his appearance, and she said he was gray in both appearances and demeanor, which is haunting.
Appearances and demeanor. Okay.
Albert Fish was a slayer of children. He was a child slayer, rapist, and cannibal. He boasted.
Wow. Okay.
He boasted that he ate children in every state in the nation. And Roxy, he would choose victims that were either mentally handicapped. We'll get there.
Oh my God. Okay.
He would choose
I'm really
victims.
hoping the twist is that this is not real. Okay, sorry.
He chose victims that were either mentally handicapped or African American. Because these were underrepresented groups and that people wouldn't notice if they went missing. So he would torture, murder, and mutilate these youngsters with a meat cleaver, a butcher knife, and a small handsaw. And even though he was barely literate, Fish would write taunting letters to the parents of his victims, gruesomely detailing how he slayed, butchered, cooked, and then dined on their offspring. He would declare that a child rump was the most toothsome dish in all of gastronomy. Once he was arrested, he confessed to killing more than 700 children.
Oh my God. Well, I don't think that number is correct. That sounds like he's... Okay, I keep going. This is just so awful. Okay.
He was arrested and confessed to killing over 700 children. One of the detectives described his appearance as, quote, the devil himself. Roxy, this Albert Fish, this guy was a real jerk.
That's what you were building towards.
Uh-huh.
Was he real?
No. No, it wasn't real.
Oh my God.
Okay, so that's why this is probably my favorite joke of all time.
Okay, please explain.
Because, first of all, what a build-up towards nothing. It's very
funny.
But second of all, that to me gets at what is so scary about stories like Stanley Steirs and Michael Myers and whoever killed our girl Janet Chapman and all the man upstairs, the call coming from inside the house story. What's frightening about this is that to label somebody a real jerk is the kind of thing you would call a friend of yours who's being a dick. It's he's behaving badly, but it's within the realm of humanity, right? He's still a person. To take somebody who is ostensibly a human being and say that they can do these things, that they can do something so inhuman, it's almost like it's so horrible that you can't fathom it. you can't like wrap your head around how somebody from your same species, somebody who is you, could do something like this. It's so dark. It's the H.P. Lovecraft looking into a black star. It's just like, what are we doing? What's humanity about? Like, I didn't know it was this dark.
Yeah, so I guess the idea is that you distance yourself and humanity from that type of action by calling them a monster or calling them pure evil or whatever, like we do with Michael Myers, because then you don't have to muse upon the fact that, oh, he's actually human just like you are.
Right.
He was born just like you were, you know, like we all are. And that could be you for if who knows what happened to you or you made a different choice, I guess.
And if you did that stuff, Roxy, you would be a real jerk.
Yeah, that's what they'd say about me. Infamous serial killing jerk.
Roxy, how likely, the Stanley Steirs story, let's say, how likely on a scale of 1 to 9 do you think is it to happen? Of course, 1 through 9 being the choices because 10 does not exist in the scary basement.
Well, stuff like that has already happened all over the place. So I'd say a 9.
The answer is 9.
Yeah. There's horrible monsters who have done even worse. And that's like already terrible.
I wonder, you know, this is something that now I'm just realizing I could look into is who was like the worst child serial killer?
Oh, like the youngest one, I guess.
Yeah. Here. Actually, I don't want to look it up. That makes me upset. I was going to be like, let's just Google it real quick. But then I was like, I don't care.
It's a lot easier to accept that adults end up with extra years come to these sorts of places.
Kids should be doing nothing but playing video games and, at worst, hurting animals.
How about no? How about only one of those things, which is playing video games? That's what makes
them adults who can do this.
I mean, yeah, that is one of the tells. That's one of the precursors.
Roxy, do you have a question for me?
Yes, I sure do have a question for you, Mikey. So we've been talking about a lot of legends about babysitters getting killed and menaced. So what is your scariest babysitter story, Mikey? Whether it was you being babysat by a babysitter or if you were the babysitter.
I was a babysitter once.
Okay.
For
once. No,
this was the last time I did it. I was babysitting my little baby cousin, Michael. His name was also Michael.
Named Michael? Yeah. Michael babysitting Michael.
We call him Duncan now because there's so many Michaels in our family. And so his middle name is Duncan. Yeah.
It's a family name?
Very much so, yeah.
Oh.
I'm named after my grandfather. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I'm babysitting Duncan. He's 2 or 3. And he is in my room and he finds my Super Nintendo controller. And the cord is like still attached to the console. And he also gets a hold of a scissors.
Oh, no.
And he opens the scissors and he puts it, like he doesn't snip the cord, but he like puts it in the snipping position.
How old is this child again?
2 or 3.
Okay.
Very young. Right. And I'm like, look away for a second. I look back and he's got those scissors to the controller. And I'm like,
oh my God.
Yo, Duncan, don't do it. And he is looking me dead in the eyes, Roxy. Wow.
Okay.
He snips.
Oh my God, demon child.
And it's just the end of that controller. And I'm really upset, but it was like, damn, that kid knew what he was going to do. He was ready to do it. He was not listening to me, but he wanted to make sure I saw it before he
is pure evil, okay. He can't be an evil child, turns out.
So yeah, then I obviously never babysat again because I can't risk video games in such a way.
Yeah, no, not okay.
Roxy, what was your scariest babysitter story?
My scariest babysitter story was, I was babysitting a kid and we walked to the park for like a bit before we were gonna like get food and put him down to bed.
Put baby down for Baba?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what he says. And we were on the swings. Well, I was like watching. And this kid was kind of like a rough and tumble kid, sort of. He'd be the kind of kid who would try to do a backflip off of a sofa. Or some shit. Like, he was getting scuffed up and scraped all the time. So I was, like, making sure to watch him while he was on the playground. I was like, swings, that's probably fine. He starts getting really high and then just jumps. And I think it's either because he, like, landed wrong or he was too small or whatever, but he lands and sprains his leg. And it's just screaming.
His whole leg?
I mean, he sprained it. It's not like it's broken or anything. But I don't know that at the time. I just see him fall on his leg and start screaming. So So then I'm like yelling and being like, what the hell? And it's like before cell phones, so I'm freaking out. I eventually end up like getting him home and calling his parents and everything. And they like, I expected them to be so mad at me, but they were kind of like, oh yeah, he does this stuff all the time. I was like, what? Like, okay, I guess I should be happy about that they're not like upset at me or something. And like, yeah, I was really worried at the time that he got his leg broke. It was like a sprain. He was fine. And they even asked me to babysit again for them. And I similarly was also like, I think I'm fine. I don't need like the pocket money from that. It's okay. But thanks for the offer.
Wow. What kind of messed up things did that kid grow up to do?
That's a good question. I never checked back in on him. So it's in my neighborhood though.
He's gonna kill somebody.
Or maybe he became a stuntman or something.
Oh, that's true. He could have used his evil gifts for good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how evil it was what he did. It was just very dumb. He was a thrill seeker, Mikey.
Yeah, we've all been there. And now this episode is over. Jump scare!